welcome to the Pikku Kimalainen Knitting Podcast, episode 11. My name is Rachel Mariama, and I am a knitter and spinner living in Montana. And it's really snowy today, so we're gonna go grocery shopping, but the highways are really nasty right now, so I decided to take this opportunity to record an episode. So here I am. I've got a lot to talk about. There's going to be a lot of things I'll miss today, and we'll have to film another episode just because I couldn't fit everything in, because it's been a while. So yeah, let's get started with some of my finished objects. So my first finished object is the Leaf sweater by Camille, and I will leave all of the links to download this pattern down below. But it is a very beautiful light sweater knit out of fingering weight yarn. And I used Solstice Yarn, which is the yarn dyed in my local yarn shop, Double and Bay Knitting Company. And it's this really beautiful cashmere mix. So this yarn is really beautiful. This is what the label looks like. And this is hand dyed at my local yarn shop. So the lovely ladies at my yarn shop dyed this up, and I believe you can get it online as well. It is a little pricey, $34 for 100 gram skein, but it is really soft, and I decided to treat myself. But yeah, kind of pricey yarn, but still very much worth it if that is in your price range. But this is her Midsummer sock base, and it's a 75% superwash merino, 15% cashmere, and 10% silk. So it is very fancy. I usually don't buy yarn this fancy, but I really wanted to test it out. Yeah, I love it. It's very soft and buttery against the skin, but I haven't seen how it has worn yet pilling wise, so I guess we'll find that out. And this is the fawn colorway, which is the color that I used for this beautiful leaf pattern on the sweater. And what really attracted me initially to the sweater are the little sparkles in between each leaf design. It's really beautiful and whimsical, and I can't wait to wear this. I haven't been wearing it much just because I've been wearing mostly really heavy garments, just because I haven't had the chance to dress up that much. But I have been wearing it at home because we're all stuck at home right now. And so that's made it really nice and cozy. And I absolutely love this pattern. I tested it for Camille, and it is wonderfully written. I absolutely love it. I do think my color work gauge is a little off, because when I blocked my swatch, I got exactly the 26 stitches and 34 rows in the 4x4 inch square, but it looks like I'm off by half a stitch when I started knitting it in the yoke after blocking it. So I do think the armpit area maybe is stretched a little bit too much, but not too extreme. But I also do really like that in a sweater, just because I hate having stuff touch my armpits. But if you look at everybody's finished pattern, there is quite a bit of space and wiggle room for your arms to move around. So I don't think that would ever be an issue in this pattern, and it's so lovely and beautiful. I just love my color choices. I got a bit of a late start because I was going to knit this in Holstagarn Super Soft, which is a much more affordable option if you do not want to use expensive stuff. I believe I have a cone of Holstagarn somewhere. So in talking about affordable yarns, this stuff is my absolute favorite yarn because it is a very natural woolly wool that is so lovely when it blocks out, because it doesn't grow, but it blooms and becomes very soft and squishy. And oh dang, okay. So it doesn't have how many grams are in this cone. I've already used quite a bit of it, but I honestly haven't made a dent, and I could probably definitely knock out a fingering weight sweater with just using this cone, and I believe it was $18 just for this. And your yardage goes quite a ways with Holstagarn just because the yarn is so thin in the cone or in the cake, but once you actually block it out, it blooms to be so much more fluffy. So this is, Holstagarn is always my go-to yarn for affordable knitting, other than like repurposing old sweaters or getting yarn from thrift stores. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. I do have a sweater that I'm knitting up in Holstagarn, and I will talk about that in the next episode, but I feel like affordable yarn should always have a spotlight in every single episode. But yeah, it's such a lovely sweater, and I will put some pictures of me actually wearing it out and about. I still haven't finished, so technically the, what is this part called? The neckline. Technically the neckline is finished, and the original pattern, if you go to my Ravelry page, if you go to everybody else's notes, you'll notice that it does not have this ribbing around the neck. And so I tend to not like stuff that is a little too open around my neck. It's just a personal preference, but if you are sensitive to that, having any kind of wool, or maybe you run hot like me and need a little bit more like space for your skin to breathe, to give off heat, because I do run very hot, which is really upsetting because I love wearing sweaters, but usually I can't wear them because I get too warm too fast. But if that is an issue for you, the original neckline where it is just the cast on edge is so lovely and beautiful, and I would recommend using a slightly larger needle size and not being afraid of having like too loose of a tension for that neckline, because it will just stretch into kind of a solid, the neckline is a lot more solid and less stretchy than the rest of the sweater, so you're not going to have like an overly stretched out, just falling off of your shoulder sweater, because that neckline is so sturdy with the cast on that you use. But I tend to prefer stuff that is really close to my neck, just because with such cold weather, having one part of my body being slightly different in temperature kind of makes me feel weird. So it's just a personal preference for me. So I did try and pick up stitches, and I didn't pick up enough, or I decreased too much, and I can barely fit this over my head now, so I'm going to have to unpick this neckline and probably slip maybe 10 more stitches in there, or maybe 5, just to get it to the point I want, because as it is, the neckline is perfect. I'm just trying to make it go up a little bit more. But I knit it slightly cropped, so if you go to my Ravelry page, the yardage will be different. But you should really go and check out the pattern. It is so well written and so lovely, and it's a perfect transitional piece because the fabric is so light and flowy. Like if you look at the drape on this, look at that. Not a lot of my sweaters do that because I knit them so heavy, but that is almost like t-shirt drape right there, and it's really beautiful and lovely. Although I have to be careful around my cats because I did use such a fine yarn that their claws tend to catch on it, and it is a really slippery yarn as well, so just one little snag just pulls the entire stitch out. So I do kind of have to be delicate when I'm wearing this, which is why another reason why I like rustic yarns, because if you get a snag, it's not going to pull as much because the yarn is so grippy and scaly that it's not going to just pull out an entire row of stitches and make one stitch just absolutely ginormous. But yeah, that's my life sweater. First finished object, and I think I just have one more. I'm just trying to keep this episode manageable because I tend to get really focused on my knitting and then I don't record, and I have a ton of stuff to talk about afterwards. So I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to record more often. But I have a sewing finished object, and this is just a little blouse that I sewed up over my Christmas vacation or Christmas break. We didn't go anywhere, we just stayed home, and I got a lot of crafting done, which is really nice. And this is just a really cute ruffled gingham top with ruffles along the elbows and a little scrunched in elastic sleeve. It is covered in cat hair, so I'm sorry if you see floaties. And I just drafted this from a old t-shirt that I really like the fit of, and I added a little gathered hemline, and it just hits me at the hips, and it's really cute and boxy. I do, however, have to go back and make the elastic a little bit bigger, just because where it hits my arms, it digs in quite a bit. If it hit me at my elbows, I would be fine, but it tends to ride up right to about here, so I do want that to be a bit looser just so I'm not cutting off circulation to my arms. And that should be really easy because what I did was I took a scrap of fabric and sewed it to the inside of the sleeve. I'll turn the sleeve inside out so you can see. So here's the inside. And if I stretch it out, you can kind of see where I just sewed a little tube by along the edge, and it was really easy to follow just because I had that checker pattern. And then where the seam is, I just folded in the edges, and that there's actually a little opening there where I can access the elastic. So let me try and show it off. I don't think you can really see that, but there's a little piece of elastic peeping through there, and it's not tacked down or anything, it's just being concealed by that tube of fabric. And I'm just gonna snip that and put in a slightly longer bit, and it should be good to go. And this is a really cute summer piece because I can just throw it on with a black pair of trousers and some Oxford shoes or some loafers, and I don't have to try really hard to get ready. That's kind of what the sleeve looks like. I'll include some try-on pictures as well. And I think I'm going to use the scraps to add some bows along the elastic so it kind of looks like it's tied in by a scrap of fabric. And I think I have enough to make a matching mask. This is 100% cotton. So when I go out, I usually try and double layer, so I'll use my M95 and then a cotton mask over it, and it would be cute to have a matching mask for once. So yeah, if I make that mask, I'll include pictures, but I don't think I'll have time yet. But I've got plenty of masks to wear around, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'm not dressing up to go anywhere either, just going to the grocery store, so usually I'm in a big sweater and a chunky coat, so I usually don't dress up. Next I'm not sure if I showed this on my last episode or not, but I'm going to show it here because I've been exploring with embroidery quite a bit. So these are two embroideries that I finished a few months ago. This one is not the exact pattern, but I used one of the embroidery templates from Matryoshka Doll Shop, and I didn't have a printer to print out the template, so I just kind of used all of the information I learned from their kit to make this. And I highly recommend purchasing embroidery kits just because you learn so many new stitches and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, these are all the flowers that I learned from that kit. I will link it down below. And it's just in an embroidery hoop from my local quilt shop. It is tensioned with this little piece of bent metal. I don't know if you can see that. So you don't have the little screw that tightens it. And with everything I learned from that kit, I also made a little embroidery of my own of a Hunt's bumblebee, which are my favorite bumblebees. I don't know, they're just really chubby and cute. So I made one using some leftover scrap yarn, and that's why it's so fluffy looking. And I also achieved that fluffy look by when I made a stitch, I did not pull the yarn all the way through, so a lot of these are really loose, and that just gave its little butt some a little bit of volume. And yeah, so I was having a lot of fun with that, so I decided to try out cross stitch. I'm gonna open up the window because it's getting really hot now. So I decided to experiment a little with cross stitch, and I got a cross stitch kit from Junebug and Darling, and I've been wanting to get a kit from them for a while now. So I purchased one from Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and I've never done cross stitch before, but this kit is really well written, and as a beginner I feel really comfortable with what I'm doing. So this is how much I've completed so far. I know I haven't exactly kept my ends as neat as they could be, but I'm not gonna worry about it. So I just have a couple more flowers to finish until this kit is complete. And they also give you supplies and instructions on how to finish. I've got threads everywhere, I'm sorry. I'm trying to take this apart on how to finish your piece. So I'm actually going to have an embroidery with a finished back, which is really exciting because all of these do not. So yeah, I think I might finish this maybe in the next 2 weeks. This isn't on my priority list right now, but it's a very beautiful embroidery. And yeah, I highly recommend going to their website. I will link it down below, and purchasing patterns. They have so many beautiful patterns, and they're not all physical kits. You can also just purchase the PDF on how to embroider one of their designs without having to get anything like supplies. So if you already have everything you need at home to start, you can go there and get a chart for yourself. So that's it for embroidery. Next, I recently purchased a spinning wheel, or maybe a couple months ago purchased a spinning wheel. I've been wanting to get a spinning wheel for a while, and I did have my eyes on the Kromsky Polonaise spinning wheel, but it is really expensive. I think it's, in the walnut finish, it's pretty close to $1,000, which is definitely not something I can spend money on right now. But my little town, somebody was having a fabric sale, and so I went there and I found they also had a spinning wheel. I did want to purchase some fabric, but I decided to wait because the spinning wheel still was a little pricey. It was around $400. But it is an old Lendrum spinning wheel, and it has the single treadle on it. So I'm pretty sure there's a double treadle kit for the spinning wheel on eBay. And I remember after I bought it, I kind of freaked out because I couldn't figure out how to tension the wheel properly. And after watching a bunch of different videos, it was kind of hard to find videos on this wheel because it is a little old. I figured out that it was Scotch tension. I'm fairly certain. I'm still a pretty big beginner with using a wheel. I've only ever used top whorl drop spindles before, but I figured out how to tension it, and ever since it's been absolutely lovely to work with. And it makes me happy just because I know that money went to a family in my town, so helping support other people in my town made me feel really nice. But I have been really busy spinning. Let me see if I can hold all of this up. I don't know if you can get the full effect. Yeah, I've been really busy. Oops. So I think I'll try and go through each skein and try and remember the fiber content. But first things first, there was some leftover fiber on the wheel, so I decided to spin it up. And so this is kind of like a little scrappy skein with the leftover fiber I found. And it's almost like art yarn. It goes from a light fingering weight all the way up to a bulky weight, so that's going to be really interesting to knit with. But I'm planning to put this in a sweater for my fiance. I'm hoping to do maybe like a Icelandic style sweater with this being the main color of the body. And I haven't skeined these up yet, but this is some yarn that I processed myself. One of my coworkers has a Shropshire sheep, and so that is the white yarn, the white fiber you see in this yarn. And my fiance also got me a raw Jacob sheep wool fleece to process, and I processed that just by using Unicorn Power Scour after picking all of the vegetable matter and poop out of the fleece. And that was quite an experience. I did break out all over because I found out I was allergic to lanolin. So yeah, I had like avocado texture on my face for a few months, or a few weeks, not a few months. So here's a complete skein of that. So that is just the Shropshire that I processed from a raw fleece, and the Jacob wool I processed from a raw fleece, spun together to make a really heavily marled yarn. And I would say this is around maybe worsted weight. And then here, there's some vegetable matter in this too, and a little bit of hair. So here is another skein of the Jacob wool, and this time I plied it with a strand of brown Holstagarn yarn, and I'm really looking forward to using this in a colorwork sweater, just because I know that this color will not bleed. I always get really nervous knitting with darker yarns and lighter yarns together when I do color work, especially if the darker yarn is dyed, because there is a high possibility it will probably bleed and change the entire mood. If I use a contrasting yarn, I really try my best to try and use a yarn that is naturally dark, but I can't always get my hands on that. And I am almost done. I'm going to get 3 skeins out of the fiber that I purchased for these. I cannot remember the content, but I purchased it from a local wool mill that is in Belgrade, Montana. They're called the Wool Mill. And they finally had some fiber for sale that I could spin up, and so I purchased a pound of this. It was some roving that was half black, half white, so I spun it together and it made this really, really beautiful marled gray color that I think I will use to break up this slightly higher contrast yarn, just by knitting a sweater in the round and then going one row this color, one row this color, and switching in between, just because this is quite a bold choice. So I think that will mellow each other out, and I almost have a sweater's quantity to start that sweater. I just have to ply up 2 more bobbins of the fiber I spun up. Spinned up? I don't know. And these are, oh no, wait, this one's from the wool mill too. Let me take a look at my notes. Okay, this one is a Shetland Romney mix that I purchased. I can't remember how much I got from it, but I did get a full skein that I could potentially knit some socks out of, or a hat, but I think I'm just going to use it with my Jacob wool. I almost have 2 sweater quantities of hand spun yarn, so I'm really excited. So I think I'm going to use these 2 together in an Icelandic sweater for myself. I have gifted away a lot of my sweaters recently, so I'm trying to knit more stuff that fits into my wardrobe better, because I tend to not like really, really colorful things. Even though it's really tempting to knit with a lot of different yarn colors, I find it is a lot more satisfying if I just stick with the colors I'm comfortable with wearing. But yeah, that's going into potentially a cardigan or a sweater. I don't know yet. And then here are some skeins. These are the last 2, I promise. I've been doing a lot of spinning recently. I never really cared for spinning as much when I was using my drop spindles, just because the process is a lot slower, but with this spinning wheel, it goes by so fast. I'm able to just make loads of yarn, and it's really satisfying. So this is some really lovely bubblegum colored yarn that I got from Farmer's Daughter Fibers when I visited. I do not have the label with me, I'm really sorry, but I remember this fiber was a little bit more difficult to spin up because it had a shorter staple. I really love spinning with wools that have really long staples, just because you don't really have to control the twist as much, and the wool is so long it just sort of grabs onto itself and turns itself into yarn. But with the shorter staples of wool, I do find I have to sort of pre-draft it first before I spin it up. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up spinning up a huge chunk of yarn because it doesn't really grab onto itself as well. But it's still really lovely, and I'm not sure what I'm going to use this for yet, but it is one of my favorite shades of pink. It reminds me of the pink you see during the sunset, like on the mountains here. There's a really lovely mauve that happens during the golden hour, especially on the mountains where there aren't any trees and it's just grassland. So that's my favorite shade of pink, and I can't wait to use it. And then this is some Holstagarn fiber. Ooh, I think I used my drop spindle for this. I can't remember. I might have shown this on a previous episode too. I'm not entirely sure. But I thought I might as well show it here because I'm using it in a sweater design. And so this is some Holstagarn yarn mixed in with some, I forgot the name, 1 minute. This is Holstagarn mixed with fiber from Honor Air. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but please feel free to correct me. Yeah, so I it was a little bit harder to control the tension on my drop spindle. So it is a little bit chunkier. So that's why I used the strand of Holstagarn Super Soft, just to sort of have something that was consistent throughout this spin. So everything I've shown you so far is a 2-ply. I definitely don't think I am skilled enough for a 3-ply that is not absolutely massive and bulky. So I don't even think I'd be interested in spinning a 3-ply because that would take a lot of work, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll spin a 3-ply in the future. But next thing I have to show is a little design project I've been working on. So every once in a while I will see a fast fashion sweater that kind of catches my fancy, and I will want to try and recreate it, but also make it fit my style. So I'm not sure if I will make this a pattern or not, but this sweater was originally inspired by a sweater that I eventually found out was from Free People. I'm not sure where Free People got the sweater, but I could not find an artist linked to the sweater. I even did an Instagram poll trying to find out if maybe a sweater pattern got copied, because that happens quite a bit in the fast fashion industry. They will copy from smaller designers. So I wasn't sure, because this pattern looked very unique, and I wasn't sure if maybe it was copied or not. So I did do a poll, and I reverse image I did a reverse image search on Google Lens, and I couldn't find anything similar to that sweater, and in fact I did find a lot of copies of that sweater on other sites, so it made me believe that this probably came from a factory somewhere and a bunch of different companies bought it up, or different companies copied from Free People. I'm not sure. I found a varying amount of qualities online. So if you look closely on Free People's sweater, you can definitely see a lot more stitch definition, and it looks like they used a chunkier yarn. And then on some other kind of sketchier websites, it looks like it was just machine knit with a really cheap acrylic yarn, and the stitches don't look the same. They don't look as chunky or lush. So I do not like purchasing from fast fashion, and if I do end up purchasing a fast fashion brand, it is on Poshmark, which is like a online thrift store. It's my favorite one. I've been considering doing a series on how I thrift online to find pieces that I really, really love, just because I tend to save images, and I'll use reverse image search to find out the brand, and then I'll look up that brand on Poshmark, and usually I'm able to support a small business or somebody just trying to make a little extra money on the side for a dress that I like. So yeah, this dress is actually from H&M, I believe. So I reverse image searched this when I saw it on Instagram, and I typed in a bunch of keywords on Poshmark as well as the brand, and eventually came up with this, and it's a really lovely dress. I really like it, and I think I'm going to draft a couple patterns from it because it's a really comfortable fit. It's really flattering, and there's no elastic around the waist, which I really hate it when garments have that because it's so uncomfortable. Anyways, rant over. This is the design that I was coming up with just by looking at that sweater. So yeah, I just have the yoke done, and I had to look at a couple other patterns to figure out how the numbers for how they divided for the arms and the body, because that was kind of making my brain hurt. So I kind of want to release a pattern like this. It's really cute. I'm definitely going to change around the charts, and usually I kind of stray away from well, actually maybe I don't. I don't want to get the hype built up too much for this pattern, just because it might just be a personal project for me. And if anything, I might share on my Instagram stories the charts that I created, just because I don't think I'm skilled enough to make a sweater pattern with a wide size range that I would want to do. I'm not quite sure if I'm there yet, but I'm working on it. So maybe in a year or so, this is way far in the future, I might share a pattern on this sweater. I'm not 100% sure. I am looking at taking a few classes for making multiple sizes for sweaters, just because sock sizes are a little different from sweater sizes, and there's a lot that goes on in this region for all different kinds of bodies, and I just want to make sure I'm doing a thorough job of it. But I wanted to show this anyways, just because it's been giving me a lot of joy, and I haven't been knitting on it recently, but I think it's really lovely. And it's not 100% copy from the sweater that I saw on Free People. I included some little baubles, and I'm definitely ripping back this section. I don't even know what I was thinking, but it does not look good. But yeah, this sweater is knit using all scraps, all yarn that was just laying around and didn't have a home, and yarn that I repurposed from another sweater. I actually thrifted this color. Let me see if I can find a better section to show. I thrifted this light color, and it was from an old sweater with a bunch of moth holes in it, so I just tore open the seams and gathered up all that yarn, and I think this is all I have left of it, is this big old ball. But I'm going to include some other colorwork charts in that sweater, just so I can stretch that yarn a little bit more. So this sweater overall will probably be knit for about $30. I'm trying to factor in all of the scraps I used, although technically those are free. But yeah, I wonder if I can try it on. I don't want to ruin my hair. So this is what it looks like so far. Really cute, and right now this section looks really lumpy. But that's just because I'm, no, 1 minute. I shouldn't have done that. Anyways, this section looks a little lumpy right now just because I haven't blocked it yet. But I really like the look of it so far. I think it's really cute. And for the pink yarn, I'm actually using that hand spun yarn. So this section right here, you can see the hand spun. And yeah, I think that's it for works in progress. So I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then I'm going to sign off. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Storm's Approach hat by Kelsey Garner. She is knitting me copy on Instagram and Etsy, and I actually, it was a test knit, and I gave it away as a Christmas present to my mom. But I did purchase a kit from Kelsey, and I'm so excited to cast on another. I've just been waiting for my other obligation knits to be finished. But I do have pictures, so I wore this to work, so I wasn't all dressed up. But it is a really lovely textured hat with this like really lovely bobbly texture that kind of reminds me of a raspberry. And I knit it using some yarn choices that were questionable. So I chose a dark yarn with a light mohair contrast color, and I believe the dark yarn was Studio Donegal, if I'm using contrasting colors together in that way with mohair yarn, I'm just trying to deepen the contrast in stitches in order to make them really pop out. But usually I do that with a dark mohair and a light base yarn, and that's what really gives the stitches and color work and texture depth. So I don't know why I flip-flopped it, but having that light mohair with the dark base yarn just completely hid the texture, and I was kind of sad with my yarn choice. But luckily Kelsey did include kits, and this one is a little bit similar, but the contrast isn't as drastic because I used almost like a black dark navy yarn with a white contrast color, but this one is a nice light gray color. So when you hold the two yarns together, it won't be as busy, and I've already seen people knit up this hat in these kits, and they look absolutely beautiful. And honestly, this is the color scheme I should have gone for originally, and I believe that they still have kits available in their shop that I will link below at Knitting Mikabi. And what colorway is it in? It's in the Lightning Storm colorway, so the base color is a really beautiful yellow, and then you of course get your light mohair. Yeah, that's a kit that is still available for this. I'm not sure if it will still be available once I put up this video, but they've got so many beautiful yarns in their shop. I would just recommend giving them a visit. But yeah, I purchased this kit and I can't wait to cast on. I think I had to use US size 3 or 2 to achieve gauge. But I'm genuinely so excited because I don't have any hats right now, because I keep giving them away. And the hat I knit for my test knit fit my head so well. It was just the color scheme that I didn't like. It wasn't the nice warm colors I usually go for, and that's why I gave it away. But I'm really excited for this. I think, like, even with this sweater, it's going to match my wardrobe beautifully. And the kit also came with some really cute stitch markers. So okay, I have to show you this little guy real quick. I was purchasing some stationery. I was getting some cute stationery online, and I saw this little guy, and it reminded me of my cat Grendel, so I had to get him. But I keep my stitch markers in here, or at least a few of them. And it's just like a cute little coin purse. I believe I got it off of ibentoy.com. So it came with some really cute stitch markers. It came with a lightning bolt one. And a cute little puff ball. I just love having cute stitch markers to work with, just because it's like wearing jewelry almost when you're knitting. And I don't know, it motivates me a bit more, having cute stitch markers. But yeah, that was the kit, and it came with a pattern which is really well written. I highly recommend trying out the pattern for yourself. And yeah, I probably will have this cast on in the next episode, I'm not sure, but I really just wanted to, because I usually don't do too much acquisitional stuff on my podcast, but I really wanted to share this because I am really excited. And yeah, so this is a non-superwash merino wool. It is DK weight, and this is naturally dyed with avocado. All of her stuff is naturally dyed with plants, which is so amazing. And yeah, looking forward to it. I think that's it. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. And feel free to subscribe, and I have a group on Ravelry, although I don't use Ravelry too much nowadays. But the group is Pikku Kimalainen on Ravelry, and I have an Instagram page, Pikku Kimalainen. And if you want to purchase my patterns, I do have them available on my Ravelry, but they are also available on my Etsy if you're unable to purchase them on Ravelry, and that is at Honey Puppy Fiber Co. I will have it all linked down below. And yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, especially about pattern stuff, the best way to get a hold of me is on my Etsy or Ravelry, just because those messages don't get buried as much. Especially on Etsy, I will have the notification right there, but on Instagram my messages tend to get buried. So if you have any pattern questions or anything like that, just go to my Ravelry or my Etsy page. I felt really bad because I was going through all my message requests on Instagram, and they have this option where you can see like top requests and stuff, and my phone glitched out and I accidentally pressed delete all. I think it's way too easy to delete all of your message requests on Instagram. So if you had an important message, please get back to me either on like Etsy or Ravelry, and I will be able to read those messages really easily. I'm really sorry if I missed anyone's comments. But yeah, YouTube and Instagram, I tend to not check those messages as much. But I really try my best. But anyways, yeah, that's it. I kind of want to show you guys this. I got him at a thrift store, and I will just leave you with this handsome little devil.